I'm Mat4yo, and this is Chisel This! I've just completed an excursion down the Amazon River, crossed the Sahara Desert on camelback, and reached your computer screen, just to bring you the latest episode of Chisel This! And in exchange for this resplendent gift, all I ask for in return is a homophone. That's right, before we jump into the analysis, I first need to ask for your help creating my next challenge rap. Leave a comment with your best ideas for homophones, or alternatively, comment with a word or phrase that you would like me to derive a homophone from. My Homophones rap in 2017 was a big hit, and I'm finally giving it the sequel it deserves, and I would like your help. Here's an example from what I've written so far. I'm not your common dork, I'm a modern era rap commodore. Out of this world like a commodore, a meteor. Leave your best challenges and it may be tackled in my next rap video. I have been pumping out rap songs. Kids on the block, spitting pop rocks. I have been pumping out rap verses on rap ciphers. Give it an oath, written in stone, I'm gonna travel the globe. Anyone thinking that I'm gonna choke, ain't gonna make it through victory road. So at the very least, give my latest rap video some love. Leave a comment, leave a like, tell me what you think. Epic Rap Battles of History is back and richer than ever in its latest installment, Mansa Musa versus Jeffrey Bezos. The absolute madman, reactor supreme, and ferociously talented rapper, Screwface Jean, leaps off the screen and into the history books by portraying Mansa Musa, king of the Mali Empire, and considered to be the richest man to ever live with an indescribable amount of wealth. Let me say congratulations to Screw, this was well earned and you rose to the occasion to deliver a performance that kept me on the edge of my seat the entire time. I will be honest, some of the latter ERBs did not excite me enough to dedicate an entire day to writing and recording a Chisel This episode because that's literally what it takes. My life is different now and it just hasn't been a priority. However, this particular installment really riveted me and reminded me of why I love ERB. In fact, I recorded my reaction. I know that this battle is out on Spotify already, but I have not listened to it. I have not watched it. Before we jump in, I made some predictions on what I think some of the punchlines might be, just by doing some basic reading about the two characters. And so I think that there's going to be a comparison from the country Mali to the drug Mali. I think there's going to be an obvious joke about Jeff Bezos' delivery, or a brag about his delivery. I think there's going to be a comparison between the pilgrimage that Mansa Musa made versus the prime shipping and how quickly something can get delivered to your house. Perhaps Mansa Musa might say, you may have that Amazon flow, but when I drown you, you'll be in denial, because the Nile River is the comparable river in Africa. Mansa Musa! As you know, I am intent on absorbing a piece of content and not putting on a show when I watch something, but as you can see, I audibly reacted to some of these lines, and that's where this battle really succeeds in creating moments for the listener to laugh, giggle, catch something that they know, and maybe learn something new. And it can't be understated how Epic Lloyd's portrayal of one of the richest men alive today, Jeff Bezos, is equally riveting. The way that he laughs and he cocks his head and he bears this wide-eye vacant stare, it really sets the mood. He carries the demeanor of someone who has never rapped before but is just happy to be here. The makeup on his eye continues to remind you that he is playing Jeff Bezos, so shout out to the makeup department. The goal of this battle is to juxtapose two visions of wealth, separated by hundreds of years, and how the passage of time permits certain differences and preserves certain similarities. And we see that visually right off the bat, right? Musa is depicted outside of the famous mosque that he helped to erect in the 1300s, surrounded by sand, trees, pots, and gold nuggets. It evokes a sense of simplicity. The vast empty desert is communicated through stunning visual shots, and the time period is communicated through the textures of the atlas and the way that the paper waves in the wind. On the other hand, the drones, robots, and artificial lights present in Bezos' background tell a different story. There is rigid structural uniformity in the shapes of the boxes and layout of the aisles, whereas Musa's desert is a series of unruly shapes with naturally occurring twists and turns. They mentioned in the behind the scenes how important it was for Musa to be portrayed in customary clothing to his religion, not to be draped in gold with a crown. And surprisingly enough, the modern millionaire is also modest in his attire, casual suit jacket. Of course, we later see him in a spacesuit and a muscle vest, but those are contextual costumes. Where the battle of the riches differs is in their behavior, not so much their appearance. Speaking of behavior, Musa invokes his religion to start the battle, holding his morals against Bezos and swearing to an honor code. An honor code to destroy him.
By the holy Quran, I lay my hand upon. I blaze Bezos, inflict inflammatory damage on Amazon. Burn it down like when they put the cattle on. The hottest on the map since the Atlas of Catalan.
Musa references burning down the Amazon as if it were the rainforest, subject to fires that are often attributed to cattle farming, apparently. It provides a great rhyming opportunity leading into the Atlas of Catalan, and that's a chance to reference the very limited visual resources that exist depicting Mansa Musa. Recreating his pose on the Atlas introduces you to his character in the truest form, and whether or not you know who he is beforehand. It's an introduction almost, so it's very important when appealing to a broad audience. Watch how the editors key in the items that he holds in his hand in the close-up shot before cutting away to a different take where he's already holding them, right? A flawless transition to pull items out of hammer space.
With cold bars you can't escape from. Lyrically, I pack heat, you pack a tank gun.
You've got references to gold bars, dueling as prison bars that you can't escape from, and then another comparison to Musa's wild nature versus Bezos' corporate fragility. They also use tape later on as a transition with a little sound effect.
Laying the blows you can't dodge, this ain't sales tax. I left footprints in the Sahara, I know how to try. Plus doors like .com bubbles.
There's easy jabs like the dodging sales tax line, but there's excellent world building by tying in the Sahara Desert with a rap pun being hot tracks. That's when it clicks, right? That's when this battle is justified. It makes sense. This person, this historical figure, works as a rap battle character.
Plus doors like .com bubbles when I hit them. Nah, you can't spit, you got that algorithm. Here's a nugget of advice to get your union.
Of course, the .com stock market bubble occurred in the late 90s when internet companies were starting up. You typically blow bubbles, but Bezos would have a hard time considering he can't spit and has an algorithm. It's funny to hear this joke because it was a pun that I used last year in a challenge rap.
Because I'm a foul organism, Mat4yo makes the whole globe warm. Call that my algorithm. Oh!
Now, the comparison to Al Gore isn't necessarily built up by the line prior, but it does fit when considering Al Gore likes to take credit for creating the internet and may not make for the best rapper.
Here's a nugget of advice to get your union problems handled. Want workers that don't piss? Hire some camel.
Here's a nugget of advice, like a gold nugget that Mansa Musa was known to hand out, re-emphasizing his philosophy on riches. Notice that he also tosses a nugget into the pile behind him. It's a really nice attention to detail. And here we have one of the great two-sided references. You know, my favorite lines are the ones that can only be said from a specific rapper to another specific rapper. Now, this is a reference to allegations that working conditions are poor in some Amazon warehouses. Musa suggests that if Bezos needs employees that need no pee breaks, he should recruit African camels, known for their ability to hold it in. It's deeper thinking like this that transcends mere wordplay and makes references to actually draw in elements that are close in proximity to each character and their universe and their time period, even if they're not necessarily about each character. You're pulling things from here, pulling things from there. That makes it a multi-dimensional piece of artwork.
I expanded horizons with libraries and mosques while you chopped off the top of all the mom and pop shops. All you widened was the gap between the haves and have-nots. Now they ordering or living in your cardboard box.
At Amazon, our product.
Here's a classic ERB line that uses positive exposition as a layup to a negative diss, and a fitting one at that. Amazon made it so much easier for us to order things with one click and forego supporting local businesses. If you can, go to a mom and pop shop this week and see what they have to offer. And a masterclass in visual writing comes at the end of this verse, where Musa takes the classic Amazon package and likens it to a cardboard box that an unemployed, homeless individual might need to sleep in. The 4-bar stanza initializes and concludes a complete thought, using relevant words to build the argument into a grand climax fitting for the end of the first verse. And if you're trying to craft a rap argument, I recommend doing this. You're creating an introduction, a middle, and an end, a little microcosm of an argument that has its own relevant wordplay and language and evokes certain imagery, and it works great here in this little section because it's all leading into that punchline. Later on in this rap battle, you're going to see Jeff Bezos make a lot of references back to back, one after another, and they're kind of disjointed and not connected.
Schooling you like Timbuktu, eating you like Whole Foods. Your ship is ill just like the dude who came before you.
Take that versus this segment, which is so well blended together and really natural in its progression. And it just gives you an example of different ways to write, and you can decide for yourself which one you like better.
At Amazon, our product research is phenomenal, but I've never heard your story. And I own Audible, so go take some more gold there, Kanye West.
Jeff Bezos. He put his back into it, I'll tell you that. He begins flowing with something similar to Zuckerberg that we saw earlier in ERB history, where he doesn't even acknowledge what Mansa Musa just said, yet instead delivering an on-brand line as if he were giving a speech to investors or employees, or just being stuck in his own world, really. Bezos' second line serves as one of the thesis statements for the entire video itself, and it's almost a moment of relief for viewers who have never heard of Mansa Musa before. You know, a teacher friend told me that they do include him in their school curriculum, and in fact, the lesson is coming up shortly. I warned them not to show this video to their younger elementary students. Regardless, he is understandably not as well documented as other historical figures that have been featured in ERB. And the writers sort of acknowledge this in a meta-textual fashion by saying not even Jeff Bezos has heard of Mansa Musa's story. And he owns a company that allows people to literally hear stories, Audible. I'm surprised Audible didn't sponsor this one. Now, Jeff's perspective from the battle suffers by being on the opposing side of a character whose life story is not as widely sourced as his own. Jeff brings up anecdotes from Musa's life, such as killing his mom or bowing to the king of Cairo, but even then, if you go online and look it up, there's some articles that suggest that it's unclear who his mother was and that he didn't actually bow to the king, so I can't be certain what's true and what's myth, and I don't think the writers can necessarily nail that down either. Despite that, they are concepts, they are myths, they are stories relevant to Mansa Musa's life nonetheless, and are thus ammunition for disses.
So go take some more gold there, Kanye West Africa. I'm hotter than the soundtrack to Battlestar Galactica.
I always like when ERB invents creative nicknames like Mighty Morphin Michael Vick, or in this case, Kanye West Africa, who is known for his song Gold Digger, and so there's your reference.
Trade blows with Jesse Jeff Bezos, Egghead with a huge set of huevos.
There's also a reference to DJ Jazzy Jeff, a record producer from West Philadelphia, born and raised, friend of Will Smith, which is made so much more hilarious when it comes from the mouth of a space cowboy breaking down a wall of cardboard boxes. This moment contributes to the totality of the ERB experience, being both sight and sound and a visual gag that you will remember for ages to come. Jeff has a huge set of huevos, the Spanish word for egg, which is fitting given the Bezos part of his name comes from his adoptive father Miguel, who is from Cuba. This is challenged later by Mansa Musa when he brings up his origin story.
I circle people on the web, the Spider-Man. You rap like a soccer mom, that's why you're rowing caravans. You're overrated.
Two more pop culture references come in the form of comparing the World Wide Web to Spider-Man's web, and of course soccer moms who drive Dodge Grand Caravans to a caravan of camels. I don't think the camels would fit in the back seat though, and those orange slices would probably be gone pretty quickly. The next four lines move away from the superficial, and they touch on philosophy, which is a much needed change of pace for a verse that has been front-loaded with modern references and jokey punchlines.
You're overrated, like you leave economies inflated. You're about to taste some of that salt that you traded. What's the long-term plan giving your wealth away? Cause now I feed your whole country for the price of a cup of coffee per day.
I enjoy how the price of a cup of coffee per day line is worded like how you might see commercials asking for donations to children in those less fortunate countries. It's almost a self-diss, but it serves the greater goal of the rap battle to build his character.
You'll be more ashamed than when you accidentally killed your mom. When I make you shit your pants, worse than diapers.com.
So Amazon once owned the domain diapers.com, which sold baby products until they discontinued it. So playing off the earlier mom reference, Bezos paints Mansa Musa like a baby wearing diapers and says that he will discontinue him.
Diapers.com.
Hey yo, Lex Luthor, you look like a villain at Comic-Con. You getting ate up. You should have battled me on Ramadan. A harem of women's what I had on my staff. You married.
Now, this is my favorite part of the battle. You can see me kind of just like be taken back by it when I hear it for the first time. Screw's flow here is so invigorating, and the gravel in his voice just sells. I love the comparison to Lex Luthor, the Superman villain, and especially enjoy the reference to Ramadan and how it's worded. it's not just a simile, right? He doesn't just say, I'll eat you up like it was after Ramadan, because, you know, the Muslim holiday where they fast. Instead, the comparison is implicit. It's like an acknowledgement. You already know what Ramadan is. There's no need for like or as. Like Mansa Musa is acknowledging that you might have been able to beat him then, but aw man, you didn't get a chance and you're screwed now.
A harem of women's what I had on my staff. You married one woman, Jeff, and she cut you in half.
A harem of women, the staff, double entendre of course, and clever reference to Jeff's wife taking a chunk of his money in the divorce. And then Mansa Musa starts to savagely recount the details of an intra-family fiasco. Now this is where he has sort of an unfair advantage, because the details of Jeff Bezos' life are just so overwhelmingly documented and current that it's easier for the bars to hit harder for a modern audience, right? I'm sure if you showed this video to citizens of Mali in the 1300s, that they would think that Bezos absolutely crushed it, or maybe they wouldn't and they would be upset that somebody was insulting their king. Then they would wonder what the heck YouTube is. But he retells the story in a creative way, ripping off of the Peter Piper nursery rhyme, and it's visually aided by this book that depicts nice Peter, get it, Peter? And I believe that's Lloyd with his wife in the little tabloid circle right there. So it's just something for you to pause and look into after you finish watching the video. It's fun.
Now your new girl got the feed me Seymour lips.
Now, I didn't really get this at first. The Feed Me Seymour is a reference to the big-lipped character from Little Shop of Horrors. I think we're being a little too mean to a lady who doesn't have really a bone to pick in this fight, but I guess no one is safe and all bets are off during a rap battle, right?
It turns out her own brother was the snitch. Woo! Fix your face. No wonder you bought Twitch. Now let me really break it down because there's more to him.
They use a lot of brand names in this battle with a double meaning, and using Twitch to describe the droopy eye is no exception. The wordplay continues to impress in this one, and it's also very relevant. I think it's a theme throughout. It's funny. I mean, it makes you laugh. It is accomplishing what ERB sets out to accomplish at every turn. Notice how the instrumental at this point introduces the harp lute instrument called the kora, which is native to Africa. I think it is absolutely genius to include something like this. It's another great way to differentiate this instrumental from the generic hype synths that you typically get. But they also incorporate a digital synth into parts of Bezos' verse, so each rapper has their own leitmotif that they reintroduced. The beat is always adding or removing elements to emphasize different moments and provide tension and relief. It's a set of really fantastic choices and requires as much work as writing and filming and editing itself. And if you're trying to make your own piece of music that has similarly impactful moments, consider how the instrumental is helping to tell your story and is holding your hand as you try to enforce certain punchlines and then take the listener away from it a little bit of filler, and then bring it back to the punchline.
He ain't a Bezos, his real name is Jorgensen. But daddy loved unicycles more than him, so he rolled out. Now that's a blue origin.
Here we have another breakdown of Bezos' life experiences and his father, a circus performer, leaving him. That's where you get unicycle and rolling from. Now Mansa Musa refers to this sad background as a blue origin, get it? Which is the name of Bezos' space mission. I think he could have sold the whole blue wordplay, being sad, if he maybe made a little crying face on screen. It's still a great joke that continues into the next line with a reference to the first word spoken on the moon, and then a contextually appropriate homophone for profit and profit, and then Bezos' oddly shaped rocket.
Take one small step towards a different profit, because these days you just as cocky as your rocket.
Now Mansa Musa is encouraging him to find faith, right? To believe in something. Take one small step towards another profit, a different kind of profit. And this is another way that they're building the philosophical differences between each other. It just so happens that I think when Mansa Musa makes those philosophical lines that they hit much harder than when Bezos tries to do that.
I'm the cream of the crop, I'm on top, I'm ice cold. This Muslim just served you, a la mode.
Lyrically legal.
Cream of the crop, ice cold. Think about how deliberate the word choice is here, even when the setup line could have been essentially useless filler. Ice, cold, and ice cream, those are key components to a menu item that is served a la mode, which is again another perfect homophone for Allah, or the Islamic God, mode.
Lyrically legal. I'm relentless, African first immune. If I wanted to waste my life in desert space, I'd watch Dune. What do we get?
Now, when you see these doubled up subtitles right here, it gives you an immediate inclination that something is up with this line, even though you might not know what it is. And so a little bit of research will tell you that this is an ERB-made acronym for a term that Bezos invented himself, being Milaravi, which is a mathematical error exceeding 1 million. The backstory is long and involves another acronym that Amazon created, but it's interesting to see it flipped around in the ERB style, despite not really leaving a huge impact in that moment. It's something to sink your teeth into and give this video replay value. Now, similar to how ERB brought Mansa Musa back into the modern discussion, so did the 2021 film Dune to the 1965 book of the same name.
What do we give Mackenzie? 40 billion? So what? Earning every penny back only took me a month. I went from hobbit dork to slick orc physique. Now I'm Lord of the Rings. Take a peek.
Bezos goes into more bragging at this point, which is clever and all in good fun, but I think it's strategically a bad play on Jeff Bezos' part. You see, Mansa Musa just actually ripped him to shreds, and his response is to talk about his hot bod. These are all good lyrics and fun things to reference, but I think the listener might get fatigued here by the lack of equally eviscerating punchlines, and if they were already thinking that Mansa Musa might have taken the victory, I feel like this little pocket right here is where they decide, okay, Mansa Musa won. The Lord of the Rings is a fitting pop culture reference, all things considered, since Amazon is producing a TV series of the franchise, and of course, Ring begins a litany of references to Bezos' owned properties, such as Whole Foods, Fire Stick, Kindle, and the Amazon flywheel strategy.
Take a peek! 3 years to trek to Mecca, man, you must be tripping. One click, I'll get you there overnight with free shipping!
This line is actually one of the predictions I made right before I watched the video.
I think there's going to be a comparison between the pilgrimage that Mansa Musa made versus the prime shipping and how quickly something can get delivered to your house.
Despite that it's not very funny on the surface and it being definitely the kind of line that I would have written, it does warm my heart.
I'm hardcore Brit, top tier of the Forbes list. You couldn't even hit top tier in Civ 6.
Mansa Musa is actually in the strategy game Civilization 6 and is not considered top tier in that game, so there you go. I haven't played it, but it's interesting to learn about that. And that's something that ERB just continues to do. You learn new things every single time you watch. And I think that the writers learn things when they write, and they want to help other people learn things too. So they incorporate the things that they learned into the lyrics, and they just keep spreading this wealth of knowledge around.
I'm schooling you like Timbuktu, eating you like Whole Foods. Your ship is sailed just like the dude who came before you.
Not only does this reference the University of Timbuktu, but it also recounts the tale of Mansa Musa's predecessor, who was supposedly lost at sea. This is like right where Jeff Bezos is trying to do what Mansa Musa did, but the details are not all quite there, so you just have to kind of make a reference to it, right? I thought that there may be a reference to the phrase "from here to Timbuktu," you know, being something that's super far away. At least they fit it in this way.
You ain't fire, can't hold the candle to me. I got the flywheel flows, I revolutionize delivery.
Another one of the references I predicted is an easy one. Everyone should have thought this one going in. Revolutionizing delivery, meaning the way that the words flow, but also, of course, a package at your doorstep. Here you can also notice a quick shot of Captain Kirk in the background, which is fitting given that Jeff Bezos just sent William Shatner to outer space.
Talent's oddly beauty like my tax. Bills, Alexa, what do we have that he lacks?
Skills.
The ending is short, simple, clean. It is both an auditory and visual gag, so I'm really satisfied by it. There's something very funny about artificial intelligence agreeing with you that your opponent is just a bad rapper. It seems like it would have been one of the first things that they came up with, and it's very fitting for the last thing that you hear, and it concludes what I think is one of the best rap battles in a long time. So let me know what you think of this latest ERB. I hope you enjoyed the latest episode of Chisel This. I'm happy to be back in the seat and bringing you a video, but I have been around. I've been here for quite a while. I'm still very active with my bro, Cam Steady. We just did a rap battle with Dialga, Palkia, and Giratina from Pokemon Diamond and Pearl, so go check that out, and I'm probably going to make a review and an analysis of that one as well, because we had so much fun making that behind the scenes. There's a lot that I want to share with you. Of course, look forward to my Homophones rap and leave a comment if you haven't already, and look forward to more raps coming in the future. I'm Mat4yo, and that's all for you today.
If only you could see the knowledge you were garner over time, you'd never call it quits. You will see a future where you supersede your lucid dreams by 2 or 3 obtuse degrees with newly gleaned acuity, and you will be the glue that keeps these dueling beasts in unity. And you help me to thwart the distortion, have cut through the noise that lay dormant. Turn back, I can never transform into the person I was before.